Hello friends, today's video is a compilation video. That means I took a lot of my favorite DIYs and put them all in one big video for you. I hope that you enjoy these types of videos. What I'd like for you to do is to reminisce and remember, did you see the video the original time that it aired, or is this your first time seeing it? I like that when you comment and let me know that. Let me know which DIYs are your favorites. Which ones would you like to recreate? What in this video is inspiring you to get up and create? Because that is my goal on this channel. Let's create.
For this first DIY, we're going to use these little wooden letters I got at Joann's. And I got them 40 or 50% off of this $6.99. So they were a very good buy. And they're to make a banner. We're going to use some cake batter and some Farm Fresh by DIY paint. And I'm going to paint the little dragonfly with the cake batter. And I just gave it one good coat. And I did both of these dragonflies with the cake batter. And look how beautiful they turned out. Now I'm going to do the letters that spell spring with the Farm Fresh. And I did 2 coats of the Farm Fresh on the letters. Now, I'm going to use this IOD stamp. It's called something Barnwood. I believe it's called Barnwood. And I'm going to just ink it up with the IOD ink and just stamp it down across these letters and hope for the best. Pull it up and voila, look how pretty that looks. I absolutely love it. Fortunately, I was able to do 3 letters at a time. Just re-ink. I'm trying to show you how I ink it, but my camera span's not quite wide enough, but I think you can get the idea of it. You just ink it up. Now, I have already primed my stamps with a little 220 grit sandpaper. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the dragonflies. Now, I get my IOD, my DIY, my Saltwash. I get all of those products from my friend Sammy over at unicorndustdesigns.com. You can go to that website. I'll have it linked in my description box below. And you can get all those products from her website and much, much more. She has some wonderful products over there, so go check her out. Look how pretty this looks. I'm in love with this. If you don't like that look, then you can just do whatever kind of distressing or design that you like on yours. I'm going to take a little sanding block and I'm just going to sand around the edges just a little bit. And then I just gave it a little quick sand across the top just to take a little bit of that, perfection off of it. I like it to look a little bit rustic. Now I'm going to take Clear Wax by DIY with one of these little makeup brushes and give it a good coat of clear wax. All of the pieces are going to get clear wax. I love these little makeup brushes. They're one of my favorite must-have craft essentials. And in case you haven't heard, when I get to 10,000 followers, I'm going to give away 10 of my must-have can't craft without supplies as a giveaway. So stay tuned for that because we're getting very close. So I'm just going to do the clear wax on all of the letters and the dragonflies. And when we're finished with that, I'm going to take this branch that I cut off of a bush in my yard, and I'm going to take some vintage linen, and I'm just going to dry brush a little bit, just randomly all over it. I don't really want it to look like snow, but I want it to just have a little, something on it that I don't really want it to look like bird poop either, but it just gives it a little dimension. And as it dries a little lighter. So, I think I like the way it turned out anyway. And then I'm going to just string the letters using some twine. And I use a little bit of glue, the Tite Bond Quick and Thick on the end of my twine and twist it. And it dries really quick and it makes it really easy. I don't have to mess with a piece of tape. Sometimes I do use a little piece of painter's tape or masking tape on the end to make it like a little needle. But that makes it easy. And then I'm going to just tie this, just kind of tie it loosely at first until I see exactly how I want it to hang. And then I hold it up to make sure it's going to hang like I want it in the right the right length, and then I just tie it around the ends of the letters so that they, it'll hang right. So I'm going to tie that how I like it, and I'm showing you that I put that on there and twisted it around. And then I'm going to tie the little dragonflies on the end of each end of this branch. I'm having a little hard time with my words doing this voiceover. And so I'm going to twist a little glue on there. And then I'm going to, when I put that together, I'm going to tie it in a little, just a little shoestring bow. I kind of thought it looked like those were the dragonfly's eyeballs at first, but when you put the twine through it, it kind of takes away from that. Now, I thought I was going to just tie a string across the top to hang this because I've done quite a few projects like that, but having the spring hang down below, I did not like the way this looked at all. So instead, I just took the branch and I drilled a hole in the back of it, and I used that as a hanger, and I like the way that turned out way better. So you'll have to let me know. Would you have left the twine hanger on top, or would you have hung it like this? Okay, next DIY. I picked these two precious little birds up at Joann's, probably that same day. Nope, not Joann's. This is Hobby Lobby. I didn't pay that price. They were 40% off. And then I have this little metal hoop decor piece. I think I got these at an online auction. They were gold, and I took them out and spray painted them. I spray painted them previously, but didn't end up using them, so I had them kind of in my stash already spray painted. And when I put them in those little holes, they will come up to the top. That's what I was trying to tell you there. But I'm going to take a little dark wax by DIY, and I'm going to use this makeup brush. It comes in a set of 5 or 6, I can't remember, and different sizes, and I love to apply my waxes with these brushes. They're also great for stenciling. I love to have them in my arsenal of brushes for crafting. So I'm just going to give this a good coat of the dark wax because the color it was just wasn't doing anything for me. And this is, it's a wood piece, but it's almost a little bit like bamboo. Now I'm going to take cake batter, and I've got a stenciling brush, and I'm just stippling a lot of this into the little nooks and crannies there because I want it to get down in there, and then I want to wipe a little bit of it back. So I just kept doing that all over these little birds until I got it to look like I wanted it to. Now they're kind of slick in nature, so the paint didn't really stick really good, but I wasn't really looking for that. I was looking more for like a kind of a dry brush, kind of not. I didn't really want a full coverage on this, so I just wanted them to look kind of old and like the paint had kind of worn off a little bit. And I'm going to take the petticoat pink, and I'm going to stipple a little bit where the flowers are on the breasts of the birds. And I don't really care if it's neat or messy. Because I want them to look like they're a little bit kind of old, I guess. Or like maybe that, a little bit of the paint has worn off. And then I do take a little bit of aviary, and one of them had a little leaf on it. And so I just dabbed a little bit of aviary on where the leaves are. And I think these little birds turned out really cute. I ended up giving them a coat of clear wax by DIY to seal our DIY paint because it is clay-based. And if you don't seal it, then it can be removed, with moisture. So if you have some high humidity, you could have some of your paint could come off. So let's wax these little babies, and look how cute they are. I think they're just adorable. So let's get back to our little platform here. So I'm going to just press those into the little openings that are provided. These came in a set. There were 3 in the box, and I only gave like maybe $5 for the 3 of them at this little online auction site. And I'm going to use a twist tie to hold it together. I'm going to take a piece of this little ribbon that I'm going to make a bow out of, and I'm just going to hot glue it around the top so that we don't see that little twist tie. And then I'm going to make a real simple bow. I'm trying to figure out what size I want it, and then I'm just going to roll it around itself. It's just a super simple bow. I made the inside loop a little bit smaller than the outside one, and then I'm making them all about the same, you know, folded in half where they're about the same. And then I'm taking a piece of twine and gathering it up in the center, pinching it together so it's gathered in the center, and I'm just going to tie a knot to hold that really tight. Now, I want some long tails because I want them to drape down the sides of our little centerpiece, and so that's about how long I want it. Find in the center, and I'm going to pinch it together, and then I'm going to tie it on the back side. Now, this was not a two-sided. You could kind of see through it, so, you know, but there's a front and a back, so I had to make sure that I had the front side with my bow. Now, I'm going to pull and twist and fluff it until it looks like I want it to, and then we will glue it on our centerpiece right on the top. Now, this part's going to be a little difficult to record because it's tall and it's right up in the face of my camera. But I'm going to take these little sprigs of greenery that I have no idea where I got these. I've had them in my stash. I don't know if I ordered them from Amazon or if I got this at Hobby Lobby. I honestly just really don't remember where I got it, but I put a little piece on each side, and then I'm going to put my little birds. I did hot glue them down a little bit, put a little bit of Spanish moss on there, and it's just such an adorable little spring centerpiece for my table. I put a little piece of lavender and a little bit of greenery around there, and I just think it turned out adorable. You'll have to let me know what you think about this one. And then last but not least, I had picked up these little aluminum birdhouses from Dollar Tree some time ago. And I just started painting one of them and decided I didn't want to that day. And so today I'm going to finish this project. So I'm just using my wire cutters on my needle nose pliers to take those little stands off. Now I'm going to use some beadboard and some Saltwash. Saltwash is a paint additive that makes it thicker and will help you get texture. Now the difference in this and adding baking soda is that this is designed to work with paint, so it's a little more stabilized. So I'm going to just pounce it on. My paint was a little bit thin because it had gotten really thick in my jar, and I had watered it down a little bit some time ago. So I could have added a little more Saltwash to make it a little thicker, but I really was kind of digging the way that it was looking on here. So I just continued to apply the paint, dab it on, stipple it on, and just get the look that I wanted and get the coverage that I wanted. And I did not want to see any of that metal through. So I just kept dabbing it until I got it how I wanted it. So I'm going to have 2 white ones, and then that bigger one. Well, let's finish this one first. Okay. And I did it all the sides, the top, the back, because in this project piece, you are going to see the back side. So this one, I'm using faded burlap with Saltwash and doing this exact same method. So getting up underneath those little eaves and just stippling it all on and giving it some texture. And you're going to see in just a bit what I'm going to do to bring out those little flowers. But I did take those metal posts off of all of the birdhouses. You can see that now. I'm going to dry them with my heat gun so that the paint gets all nice and dry, and then I'm just going to take and dry brush that paint with the Saltwash and over that, and then you can see how the detail of that flower came out. And I'm going to do it mostly around the edges and just, you know, give it a little secondary color on there. And then same with the faded burlap, I'm going to use the beadboard and do the same thing, just so it gives it some dimension and a little extra color. And then I'm going to take some weathered wood by DIY as well. I'm going to dry brush. It's just straight out of the jar, and I'm going to dry brush around the edges, just giving it, it's almost like, I like this look because I feel like it almost outlines your piece. So it gives it, you know, a place for your eye to stop. And then I just did a little bit on that flower, but I did it a little heavier on the rooftop so that it looked a little different. Now I'm going to give all 3 of these, front, sides, back, all of it, a good coat of Big Top sealer to seal them. Now, I have these 3 little birds that we're going to use French Millinery and Prom Queen paint on. Now, I poured these previously with some leftover resin that I had when I was anytime I pour and I have leftover resin, I just go ahead and pour it in a mold instead of wasting it. So that's how these little birds came about. And here's the mold that I used. It's an IOD mold, and these little birds are precious. And that lip makes it so easy to pour that resin in there. Now, you can make them with clay if you want. I prefer resin. I did buy a new kind of clay that I'm going to try that one of my sweet viewers told me about. And stay tuned because I do intend to try that soon. So 2 blue and 1 French Millinery. This is such a beautiful mauve, but when it dries, it's a light mauve. It's so pretty. And of course, I love Prom Queen because I love blue. It's my favorite color. I know everybody thinks purple's my favorite color because I have purple in my hair. I do love purple, but blue is my favorite, every shade of blue. And so I'm going to coat them with clear wax first because I want to do a little white wax on them. But if you put clear first, you can wipe the white back a little more and it won't be as stark and as heavy. So it almost is like it waters it down a little bit, if you will. So here I'm going to put white wax. Now I have a brush that I use white wax for, I have a brush that I use clear wax for, and a brush that I use dark wax for. So I'm not using the same brush for all the waxes. So I'm trying to get the wax down in the crevices, and then I'm just going to take a little paper towel and just lightly brush over the top because I want that wax to stay down in there. And you're going to see this finished product and how pretty they look when you get finished doing this. It brings out all the detail. The IOD stamps are so full of detail. I don't know how those girls do it, the IOD sisters. But I have ordered other molds. I'm calling them stamps. Oh my goodness. Okay, these are molds, not stamps. But the stamps are very detailed too. But I've used other molds and they're okay, but these are just far and above. But okay, I have this little block of wood I was going to use for another project. They were birdhouses as well, oddly enough. But my cousin had saved this for me from a project that she had at her house. And so we're going to use it for this one. Now I'm going to put these little birds over the holes. And the middle one had a really big hole. But not to worry, we're crafters. We can figure out how to fix that little problem. I'm going to take some Spanish moss and just fill the holes in. And just put the birds over the holes. And I don't even know if I did put Spanish moss on all of them. I sure did. So I'm just showing you, I'm just wadding it up and putting it over, putting some hot glue on there. And then I'm going to hot glue the birds to the house. One of them I actually used some Titebond Quick and Thick, but most of them I used hot glue. So I'm just going to put a big old wad of hot glue on this one because it had that Spanish moss it could adhere to, and this one had some Spanish moss it could adhere to as well at the bottom as well. But it looks like I just put it right to the birdhouse. Okay, so I did use the Titebond on this one. And maybe I was experimenting. I don't know the rhyme or reason why I do anything. Okay, so here they are. Now I'm going to use the Fix-All adhesive that I get at Dollar Tree. Love this stuff. It comes in a small little tube, so you know it doesn't get all janky before you use it all like E6000 does. And I'm just positioning these to see where I want them to be positioned on this little block of wood. This is a really heavy, solid block of wood, and I think it just is beautiful, natural like that. But I'm going to put the permanent glue on 3 sides and some hot glue on one side. So the hot glue will hold quickly while the permanent glue sets up. And then I can continue on with my work. So that's how it's going to look. Okay, so I put all 3 birdhouses on with the glue. Same thing for all 3 of them. And look how cute. But it just needed another little something. So I put this ribbon, just made a little simple bow. I got this ribbon and the ribbon that I used on the centerpiece at Sam's Club. If you haven't checked out Sam's Club seasonal ribbon, you are missing out. Right now for spring, they have the most beautiful, I just bought neutral ribbons, but they have the most beautiful ribbons for Easter. And they are like, in my Sam's, I don't know if regionally they are different prices, but they're $7.98 for this huge roll. And I have some that I've had for about 3 or 4 years that I've been using, and it's like it just keeps giving and giving. Okay, here's the finished product. Let me know what you think about these adorable little birdhouses, and leave a comment down below. Leave me a bird emoji, and let me know what you think about these cute little spring decor pieces.
I hope that you are enjoying these DIYs that are some of my favorites. If you're new to my channel, my name is Kendra and you're watching Late Night Creations. I'm so glad that you clicked on this video. If you're a returning viewer, you know I love you. You know the drill. Leave a comment. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up, and let's get back to crafting.
I got this bird at Savers in Kansas when I went to the For Love of Junk weekend back in September. I paid $3.99 for it. I already took the tag off. It was a great deal. I'm just going to clean it up and get all the yucky, sticky stuff off. And then I'm going to use Hey Sailor by DIY paint, and I'm going to use a chippy brush, and I'm just going to pounce it on so I can get it all in those little crevices and details. And I'm going to do this all over the entire bird and even on the bottom. I'm going to use my heat tool so that I can dry it, so I can hold it on other parts, so I can get it all over. Then I'm going to take some Big Top Sealer by DIY, and I think I'm going to use this makeup brush because it will help spread it really evenly and get it all in the little nooks and crannies and crevices, but it didn't really work that great. So I ended up switching over to a regular paintbrush that actually worked a little bit better. So I gave it just a thin coat all over. It looks like I'm got a lot on there, but that little bit went a long way. And so, yeah, you can see I just squirted a little bit, and it really goes a long way. So I covered the entire thing, and I let it dry completely. And then I'm going to use my white wax. Now, I did this because I didn't want the white wax to be too much. So this keeps it from being too much. But it's perfect. So I'm taking the white wax and that makeup brush. I get them on Amazon. They're in my Amazon storefront link that's in the description box below. And I'm just wiping it on with this brush. I absolutely love these brushes. They are so good for multiple purposes. I use it for stencil brush. I use it to apply waxes. I absolutely love, love, love them. Now I'm using an old piece of a t-shirt just to wipe it back. It's my favorite method to wipe back the waxes. You can wipe as much back or as little back as you want. I really wanted that white wax just to be down in all the creases and the cracks, and you know, you can just see what I'm doing. And I'm not real sure why I decided to show you all of this, except maybe I decided I was going to talk a little bit in this video. But this is what I did. And the parts that were hard to get to, I just put a little bit of wax on the cloth and got it in there. And then at one point, I took a little toothpick and I put some wax on the toothpick and poked it in there. And then I put the toothpick in the t-shirt and buffed it out like that. And that is done. Let me know what you think about my beautiful Bluebird for my bedroom that matches my bedroom decor. I don't have any video of our actual time in the thrift store, but this was the whole crew on the For Love of Junk weekend. We had a blast thrifting and making over our thrift finds, and this is where I got all 3 of my items today, including this adorable bunny I got on sale at Savers for $3.99. And I knew when I saw it that I was going to do a 2-sided project with this adorable little lightweight wood bunny. This wood is so lightweight, and I just knew I could make it adorable. So I'm going to use a mold on it, and one of my sweet viewers suggested that I try this Hardy Soft clay, because I don't necessarily love clay. I love to use resin. So she suggested this and that I might like it. So there's a learning curve for me on this. It's real spongy and it stays soft for a long time so that you're able to actually work with it, and there are a lot of benefits to that. But I mean, it took me a little while to figure it out. Like when I'm trying to scrape it back there with this IOD mold that has the little lip that you can just scrape it back, it was pulling out of the mold for me, and I had to keep pressing it back down in there. So I'm not sure what I was doing wrong, but I just kept pressing it down in there, and I like for the back of it to be really flat, so I kept trying to use my little scraper tool that I always use with my regular clay, and it just kept trying to pull it out of the mold. So I just worked with it a little bit, and I made it work. And then I left it in the mold to kind of dry, just out of convenience, not for any particular reason, just because I had other things to do. I decided to go ahead and start painting on our little bunny, so I just left it in there to dry. Then I grabbed Farm Fresh by DIY. I get all my DIY paints from Sammy, unicorndustdesigns.com. She sells IOD products, Saltwash, all kinds of wonderful products. Go over and check out her website. I'll have a link to it in the description box below, or you can just go over to www.unicorndustdesigns.com. Now, this is Farm Fresh. I love this color. It's one of my favorite colors that they have. And don't ask me why I painted these stripes the colors that I did and why I placed them where I did. It just happened the way it did. This French millinery, I love this too. I just can't say it. And it's a beautiful, beautiful purple. Now, then I took cake batter. Only skipped one row and then painted both. Then painted 2 in a row. No idea why. Just trying to be different, I guess. I don't know. This is just what struck me the night I was painting. And when I looked at it later, I was thinking, why did I paint those stripes the way that I did? Who knows? Okay, so while those dry, I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to do this decoupage. It's called tissue paper. Okay, let me tell you about this stuff. It is beautiful. It's amazing. It's very easy to work with, but it is not paper. It is more like fabric. It has a texture to it, and it has fibers in it. So this Mod Podge did not work with it like tissue paper or paper. I was going to try this method that everybody uses and just do a little bit, and I was really going to try to do it. I couldn't. I had to do my iron-on method like I always do. That is flawless. So you'll see me here. I do try to do it, and I just couldn't do it. But this is super thick. It's really like fabric, and it's almost kind of like a little bit of mesh too. So I went ahead and I just put a coat of Mod Podge on our bunny and let it dry completely. And then I ironed the paper down with my mini iron. As I mentioned in the intro, this video is a part of the Thrift Flip road trip hosted by the Crafting Cousins and Sammy at Unicorn Dust Designs every other month. It is an open playlist. Anyone can join it that has a YouTube channel and loves to create. When we do thrift flips or just trash to treasure, makeover decors, anything that we can't, that's old and needs a makeover, and we make it beautiful again. In the description box below will be the playlist where you can watch all the amazing creators and all the thrift flips that we did for this thrift flip road trip. Okay, now that we have this all ironed on, I'm going to trim it down really close, and I thought I was going to do the burn off method. Well, you're going to see really quickly that that didn't work, because this almost, when I burned it, almost acted like it had a little plastic in it. It melted. So I just decided I was going to take this emery board nail file, which I would never use it on my nails. It's way too rough. And it just kind of ate it up, because it's more like fabric, guys. I don't really know what this is. If you've used these before, you'll know what I'm talking about. So I took these tiny little fingernail scissors, and I just went around the edge and cut it, and it turned out fine. That worked the best. And then in the little opening, I used my X-Acto knife and just laid it against the wood and cut it, and it worked fine. I tried to sand it a little bit more, and it really just worked fine to cut it. So this is what it looked like when it was finished. And now I'm going to clean up my mess with my little tabletop vacuum, which I absolutely love. Everyone should have one of those in their craft room. Now I'm going to make a little messy bow, and I'm going to use this beautiful crocheted lace ribbon I get at Dollar Tree, and this little chiffon lace I got on Shein, and it came 3 little rolls in a package for just $1 or so. And I'm just going to cut some little pieces that are all about the same length. I didn't even care if they were all the same length or not, because guess what? This is a messy bow. And I'm just seeing how many of those I need. Now, my sweet friend Brandy from Making It My Own DIYs brought me this little bow dabber, because she heard me say that I had watched somebody use one, and I thought it would be cool. So she brought me one on the cruise that she had gotten at the Goodwill bins. And so thank you, Brandy, because look how easy it was to make this adorable little bow. I'm looking forward to using it to make other bows as well. It just, you can make those bows, but that was just easy. Okay, back to our clay. It stayed very pliable. It still feels very almost wet. I'm going to adhere it with some Tap Bond Quick and Thick glue. And when I put it on, it makes it feel a little bit slimy. I was going to use some hot glue, but I was afraid it was going to melt it, because that's just kind of how it felt. And when I'm not familiar with it, I'm just going to use what I think will work. So I'm just going to lay it down on that, because we're going to paint that with the Farm Fresh as well. And I just took my X-Acto knife and trimmed that off, and it does mold. I was able to press it down and mold it into the sides. That was a very nice feature that I was able to, it was still pliable enough to mold it into that. So that was nice. Now I'm going to take that Farm Fresh and a very small, well, I started out with that one. Okay, wait a minute. I have this little flower that's from that same mold that I had poured extra one time with some resin. And so I'm going to paint that with the Farm Fresh, and then I'm taking a smaller chippy brush, and I'm just going to paint this whole row and blend it in with that original row that we had painted with the Farm Fresh earlier. Now, I was afraid when I was stippling this on that it was going to change the texture of this clay. So I was trying to be gentle, but I also want to stipple it into all the details. So this was definitely, like I said, there's a learning curve for me on this clay. Let me know if you've ever tried this airsoft, I think it's called Hardy Airsoft Clay. So I'm going to try to dry these up with my air gun, which I always do, my resin pieces, but I was afraid to, because I was afraid it was going to melt it, and it did change the texture of it a tiny bit, so I stopped. And so then I decided that the center of those little dots we needed a little contrast. So I took crinoline by DIY and just put a little dot in the middle of those flowers, and then I put a little on my chippy brush and dry brushed just a wee little bit on the little planks that didn't have any color. And then with that chiffon lace, I made a little tiny bow and put it on there and put the little flower in the center. And then here's my little messy bow, and then I just cut another little strip to put in the center. And we're going to put it on that side. You can just see what I'm doing. I don't even need to talk. My voice is a little crackly because in Texas, our weather right now is so crazy. We had thunderstorms last night, and some places around had some, I hear some places had hail, and it was really chilly and windy today, and it has been in the upper 80s, or in the 80s, so yeah. Okay, I'm going to make a finger bow with this chiffon lace. This is so easy. Just wrap it around your fingers a couple times, and then leave a long tail. I left a little tail when I started out, but I'm going to leave a long tail right here. You see my little tail there, and then I'm going to bring it around, and I'm going to poke it down in the middle right there. I'm going to bring it up into the middle, and then that little loop by my thumb, I'm going to go to my thumb, underneath it, pull it up toward my finger, my index finger, and as long as that, where the knot's going to be is right in the middle, put it right in the middle of those two fingers, and then pull really tight toward the bottom of the bow. Pull it off your fingers, and then you have the most adorable little finger bow. And that's how I made that little bow, and then I just glued that little flower to the center. And we have a two-sided bunny. So this is really 2 DIYs in one. Okay, for this DIY, this one came from the Savers thrift store as well. It's some type of, cutting board, hot plate, something. The front part of it was all cut on and melted, and so I just decided to use the backside. So we're going to spray some alcohol on there, use my little Cricut scraper tool, scrape all of that gunky stuff off. It came off really easy, I think because it was such a slick surface to begin with. So I got my sanding block out to scruff it up a little bit and found out there was still some sticky on it. And went ahead and cleaned it up, gave it just a little rough sand. Now I'm going to take Vintage Linen by DIY and some paint inlays by IOD. And I chose this one, so I trimmed it up, seeing how it fits. Then I flipped it over on that printed side and just used some glue. I used some of that Titebond Quick and Thick glue and glued some craft paper to the back side. And now I'm just trimming it off, just using that fingernail file to just trim it. You could use scissors. You could use an X-Acto knife. I'm definitely going to keep this at my house, so I didn't really mind too much if the back was perfect. If I were going to resell it, I would have done a much better job on it, but I do want it to be finished out. Now I'm going to use that vintage linen by DIY, and I'm going to give it one good coat and let it dry really good. And then I went in with a second coat, and I'm putting a pretty thick coat on it so that it stays nice and moist. And then we're going to put the paint inlay. This is my very first time ever using a paint inlay, so be patient with me. So I got a thick coat on there. Now, the thing you're supposed to do is lay it down in your wet paint and press it down in there. So I kind of pressed it down in there a little bit. I think maybe I should have pressed it down a little more at this point, but I just tapped it down into the paint, smoothed it out, and then I took my Mr. Sprayer bottle, and you'll be able to tell when it kind of starts to change colors. I don't think you can see the sprayer bottle in the camera, but you can see right there it started changing colors. That's when I got it wet. And then I just took a little cloth and tried to pat it down into the paint. And then I took some Quick Bond and Tight Bond, quick and thick, and some hot glue, and glued that little medallion to the top. Now I'm going to show you how I pour resin. One of my viewers asked if I would show this, and so I did. Now I'm going to use parts A and B. I do have some resin linked in my description box below in smaller quantities. I buy in larger quantities because I use a lot. So you mix equal parts A and B. I'm stirring it. I stir it until I can start it to feel warm in the container. Once it starts to feel slightly warm, I know it's time. I'm doing all of this in real time so you can see it. You're going to be amazed. Now, once you start pouring, you have to pour. You can't dilly-dally around because it sets up really fast. I love these IOD molds because they have that nice little lip, and it's not very hard to. It's hard to over pour if you are very careful. And so I'm just going to make a bunch of these flowers. Sometimes I use them as medallions. Sometimes it depends on how you paint them, what they look like. You can paint them to look like flowers. You can use them as medallions. Now, I'm keeping this in real time. I'm not speeding this up because I want you to see how fast it starts to cure. You can see a little reflection of the light on there right now. But very shortly, you are going to start to see it turn white. And you're going to start to see how fast it begins to cure. Before I even finish pouring the last one. Now, I've run out of resin and can't fill the entire last mold up. And as I pop them out, you're going to see that I went ahead and poured it in. But it went ahead, I think it's the next one. It went ahead and made a really cute little flower anyway. Okay, do you see it starting to turn white? This is real time. I did not speed this up, I promise. It is turning white that fast once it starts to cure. Now, I didn't leave it for all of them to cure full time on the camera, but in 10 to 15 minutes, they are fully cured and you can pop them out and use them. Okay, so here I'm popping them out to show you how beautiful they are. This one cures to white. There is some that cures to clear, but it takes a much longer time to set up. If you have any questions about this, be sure and leave a comment in the description, in the comment section below, and I'll try to answer what I know about it. That's the one that was just the partial, and I just poured part of it, and it still turned out really cute. And that I'm showing you that those are set up really firmly. Okay, back to our project piece. Okay, it's completely dry now. It's the next day. I actually let it set overnight because it got really late at night and I left the craft cottage and went back in the house. Now I'm spritzing it down with water really good as per the instructions, and spray it down a little bit more. I wanted to make sure I got it nice and wet because we want to reactivate that paper so we can lift it up. Now, they say you can use this a couple times. I've seen Sammy do this where her second time looked just as good as the first time, so I definitely saved this piece of paper. Now, I'm barely patting this to just take off some of that moisture, or most of the moisture, and now I'm just going to gently peel this back, and look how beautiful that paint is. It's just like I painted this on that white paint, as if I had taken a tiny little paintbrush and painted that on there. The IOD sisters are genius. Now, there was a little place around each where the design stopped, and I just took a little paintbrush with some water and kind of smeared it, and it took most of that away. Now I'm just going to put a little hanger on the back because I put that medallion over the hole, and I didn't really want it to look like a cutting board, and so I'm just making a hanger on the back. I also was kind of kicking myself because I thought, man, in the fall, what a cool pumpkin this would have been. But I do love how it turned out, and I am going to have it in my decor in my house. So I'm just using some twine and some hot glue and some little pieces of canvas drop cloth to secure it because it's not super heavy, but I want it to hang right. So I'm going to just put that. Now, I'm going to probably display this on an easel and not hang it on the wall, but in case I ever do want to hang it on the wall, or in case I want to give it to somebody and they want to hang it on the wall, the hanger will be there. Now, the hanger wasn't quite perfection in my opinion. It didn't look like it was going to hang straight up in the middle, so I went ahead and pulled the string off because that was driving me crazy. But I went ahead and cut a couple more little pieces of that drop cloth and extended it. So I pulled it a little bit toward the right. You can see that, so that would be right up in the middle because I'm a little bit pedantic that way. So yeah, that's what I did. Then I took Old School, which is one of my favorite DIY paint colors, and I just dry brushed around the medallion to bring out those details in that IOD mold, and then around the edges just to, I call it outline it. I just put that paint on the edge of the paintbrush and then laid the edge of that paintbrush flat down and just ran it around the edges. And I did it with a pretty dry brush because I didn't want it, to go everywhere. And then I did it a little bit on the edges, and then I just took that dry brush and pulled it up around the edges. Then I took a paper towel and just blended it all in. Then I took this Final Fixative outside and gave it a spray of that because I didn't want anything to smear after I had done all that work. And it was my first time using it, so I didn't want to mess anything up. Now I'm making a bow, just a simple bow. You can see what I'm doing. This beautiful ribbon that I got at Sam's Club. They have some beautiful ribbon out right now. If they're not sold out, you better rush out and grab a roll. It is $7.98 a roll, but it has 50 yards of ribbon on there, guys. I have some that I've had for 3 or 4 years, and I'm still using it. Now, I don't make tons of wreaths or anything where I use a lot of ribbon. Usually, what you see me using here is about how much ribbon I use per project. I'm not a huge floral ribbon user, but if you are, especially if you are, you need some of this because it's going to go a long way. So, just making a cute, simple little bow, and you could put some greenery if you wanted to add a little extra. You could also add some greenery behind your bow once you glue your bow down. You could add, the possibilities are endless. You can get creative. I love going like the For Love of Junk weekend, for the crafty cruise that we just did. I love getting together with other crafters just to see how differently people create with the same products. Okay, I got these adorable little napkins from the Crafty Cruise Getaway Napkin Exchange. And I got this little wooden tray from Amazon in a nestled bundle for pretty cheap. I think they're in my Amazon storefront. So I chose some paint colors that I thought matched with the napkins and painted the tray in aviary. I believe it was aviary, no Farm Girl. Fancy Farm Girl. And I'm just showing you the satisfaction of when you use painter's tape and peel it off, how nice and crisp those lines are. Then I reapplied the painter's tape to the green and used vintage linen on the bottom, inside bottom of the tray. Now I'm just going to take a little sanding block and I'm just going to sand the edges of that green a little bit on the edges and the sides and the bottom and the back and just all around it, just a little bit to distress it. I don't want a whole lot of distressing, but just a little bit. This is the smallest of the nestled trays that I purchased. Now, I took some rice paper and put it through my printer with even the, it's just a saying from Peter Rabbit, and I forget what it says. You can read it there. Even the smallest one can change the world. And I'm just going to trim it down to fit inside this little napkin. I trimmed the napkins down as close to the image as I possibly could. The rabbits I could get down really close. Those rabbits were the cutest little napkins, and there were 4 of those little rabbits per napkin. So I was able to just use 2 of them. Now I'm going to use some Mod Podge to attach the little wreath. Oh my gosh, that little laurel wreath with those. It just matches those rabbits so beautiful. And the same gal brought both of these napkins. I believe it was Angie that brought these napkins, and they were just so precious. So I'm going to apply a thin coat of Mod Podge on the back of the rabbits and the wreath and rice paper. So and then I'm going to let it dry completely. Well, that one was still wet, but I'm putting it over there to dry, and I'm going to do both rabbits and the wreath with the saying in the middle on the back side. You can see what I'm doing. And then I'm going to lay it out how I want it because they're completely dry. Inside the tray, look how adorable. And I didn't really measure anything. I just eyeballed it, and it turns out fine. And I'm going to use my little heat press. You can use an iron. Just don't use any steam, and that will reactivate that Mod Podge, and it gives you a flawless, no wrinkle finish, and it is beautiful. And I always seal it with clear DIY wax, so that way I don't get any extra wrinkles. And I'm just going to do that all the way across until I get all of it adhered down. And it's such a beautiful finish. I am in love with this little tray. Now, I'm not going to use it to serve anything or use it as a tray. I'm using it as a decor piece. So I decided it needed a little something more. And you know I'm not really big on greenery and florals, but I decided to make a tiny little bow with some of my Sam's Club ribbon and my Bodabra that my friend Brandy from Making It My Own DIYs got me. If you don't watch her channel, you need to go check her out. And then just some little pieces of greenery, some little sprigs that I had in my stash. I'm just going to glue a couple pieces of those down, glue the bow in the middle, glue a couple more little pieces of sprigs of that greenery amongst the bow, and this one will be done. Let me know what you think about this little precious tray. I absolutely love it. I hope that you like it. And yeah, I think it's just adorable. Oh, one more thing. I have these tiny little half beads I purchased for some project, and so I have a bunch of them left, and I thought I would just glue one right in the middle instead of a flower. I usually will put a little flower in the middle, but I thought I'm just going to put one of these natural little beads right in the middle of that bow. Oh, not done yet. We're going to white wax a little around the edges just to give it a little more dimension, distressing, whatever. The white wax. I love the white wax. And then I did do clear wax. I gave the whole thing a clear wax seal. I didn't show that on camera. So here's our final piece, and I am absolutely loving it. Okay, next up, we're going to use some aviary paint, this other little wooden tray, and another napkin that I got from the Crafty Cruise Getaway Napkin Exchange. I'm also going to use some faded burlap. Okay, so I painted the entire little wooden tray with the aviary, and now I'm going to paint the inside bottom of this tray with the faded burlap. Now, I'm not being as pedantic about this, so I didn't tape it off, because I'm going to Mod Podge that napkin over this faded burlap. But because when you take the plies of napkin apart, okay, it's all dry, then the napkins become pretty see-through, transparent. So you can kind of see through them. So I wanted to have a background that was going to look good. So I'm putting a pretty thick coat of Mod Podge. You can see it's completely dry. I'm showing you that I took the two plies apart. You can see how thin that napkin is. You would have been able to see that green through there. So I picked a color that I thought would look good in the background. So same procedure that I do with all the iron-on method for decoupaging is using the iron. I love this method. I have been seeing my friend Sammy using the saran wrap method, with using the saran wrap. I have tried that in the past, and I may give that a try again, but I just love this flawless method. Now, I'm giving the entire project a coat of DIY clear wax. I'm going to use my awesome makeup brush, and then to get in the little corners that it won't reach in, I'm just going to use a little piece of an old t-shirt that I cut up. Now, I'm going to use a little bit of dark wax on just the edges and the corners, and a little bit here and there. I used the clear wax first because I didn't want the dark wax to be so dark. So the clear wax helps to make the dark wax not quite as dark. Now, I didn't do the clear on the bottom first, so you can see that it's a little bit darker. I'm just using what was left over on the brush on the bottom. Now that was complete. That one's complete. But I found these little carrots in my stash. They do not match that tray at all. So I'm not really styling them with the tray. But I am going to make them. These are not a decoupage project, but they were cute, and so we're going to make them. So I'm just taking some of that ribbon that I got from Sam's Club and just going to cut. I'm making 2 carrots, so I cut 2 pieces. Then I had this little burlap ribbon that somebody gifted me. And I'm going to dovetail the ends of all my little ribbon pieces. And then I'm just going to pinch it in the middle and tie a piece of little jute twine around the middle to make a simple little, just straight bow. There's no loops to it or anything. It's just a little straight bow. And then I'm going to glue that to the top of that carrot. And then it had a little loop, like it was an ornament or something. And I'm going to cut that at the base of the carrot, where the base of the carrot is. Now I'm going to use my finger protectors because nobody likes a hot glue burn. Okay, so I cut that. I've learned this little trick. I love to use tape on the end of my strings, but I also like to use a little Type Bond Quick and Thick or some tacky glue and twist it on the end of that twine, and so then you don't have the extra bulk of the tape on there. Okay, I'm seeing how many beads I need, and then I'm going to take some dark wax, and I'm just going to rub it on there, rub it on there, rub it on there, and then I'm going to rub it in the t-shirt, rub it in the t-shirt, and it gets them a little bit dark, but then I kind of decided that all of them weren't as dark as I wanted, so I went ahead and just rubbed them a little bit more with the brush, just to give them a little bit of color. And then I just strung them on and tied a knot on the end, just to make a little beaded something hanging. And then on the other one, I left them natural, and then I think I did a couple small beads and a little bit larger bead. Then I'm just going to unloose those ends and kind of fray it a little bit. I like that look. Okay, so you can see I did a little pattern on the natural beads. So here's this little tray. I think it turned out beautiful. That's a beautiful napkin. And then here are our carrots. You can see how the natural beads, I did a little pattern, too small, a big one, too small. Let me know what you think about these carrots. Would you decorate with these? Okay, we have this pretty little blue napkin, a little mini cutting board, a little bunny, and some hay sailor, and some beadboard. Now, we're going to start by sanding this little cutting board a little bit. This is from my mini cutting board stash that I've had from Aldi. We're going to paint the sides and the top of this, or the back of this, in the hay sailor. I'm going to seal it good with Big Top by DIY. And then we're going to cut our napkin down to size. This is a beautiful napkin that my friend Myra from Farm Fresh Design 59 sent to me in a big gift that she sent me, a bunch of goodies. But this was one of the goodies in there, and I think it's beautiful. Blue is my favorite color, and this I love navy, and I love every shade of blue. So I'm peeling it apart, and I'm going to iron it, because you know how sometimes those napkins have those annoying little divots on the bottom of them. Yeah, so anyway. So, yeah, I'm not real sure I painted this with beadboard. I think I just left it gray, because even though you can see through this, the gray looked fine behind it. So once that Mod Podge was completely dry, we're going to iron on our napkin. And then I'm going to take a file and I'm going to file it off. Now, this file was kind of rough with my delicate little napkin, and so it left the edge a little bit rough. So I took a finer, it was kind of like a buffing file, and I just kind of smoothed it. It wasn't rough enough to actually cut the paper, so I just used it to kind of buff it and smooth it out. Now I'm going to take that beautiful white DIY white wax, and go around the edges on the blue a little bit. And then I did just seal the napkin with the white wax as well, because you couldn't really see the white on top of that. And then I gave it all a clear coat to seal the paint in. And this is maybe my very favorite one in this video. So I had just a little scrap of this navy ribbon. I made a cute little bow. And then this little bunny was in a pack of bunnies from Dollar Tree. And I just had it in my stash, you know, because I never need the whole pack. So just use one and then save the rest for another day. Well, it's another day, so we're going to use it. And then I decided I wanted to white wax him a little bit so that he was not quite so wood grain looking. And this is it. We're just going to glue everything down. And I think it turned out so cute. I love this. I love that first tray, and I love this one. Okay, I'm going to poke a hole through there so we can have our little hole so we can put a little hanger on it. I'm not going to hang it. It will be a little shelf sitter, but it just looks cute to have the little hanger. So I'm trying to decide if I want the blue twine or if I want the cream twine. And I choose the cream because I didn't want that blue was too close to the blue. And then I don't know, I just chose it. Like I say in every video, there's no rhyme or reason to why I do most of the things that I do. So I'm just going to pull that through, tie a little knot, and this one is done, I think. Let's see if I do something else. I think that's it. Cut it however long you want it, and there it is. You can just do the simplest little things and make something beautiful. One of my videos would not be complete without a scrap wood project. So I have these pieces of scrap wood that I received as they were leftovers from a man who makes rocking chairs. And so I took these pieces, I cut off the ends, as you see here. I'm showing you that I cut the ends off, and then I'm going to use these two side pieces as parts to make a cross. And then that piece is going to be the base. We're going to use that in just a little bit. Now, I sanded those edges because it's real thin there. It comes down thin to a point, and it was a little bit kind of rough. So I just took my little sanding block, and I just sanded like so. Really just kept sanding and sanding until it made little rounded corners, and it sanded down that really thin part until it was smooth. Now I'm measuring 3 inches down so that I get my little cross even. And then I make a line across there, and then I make a line across the bottom so that, yeah, I get it even. Now I'm going to take my drill, and I'm going to do the little method where I make holes and use little dowel sticks. So I'm going to put a hole there and a hole there and a hole here and a hole here. So we're going to see, there's the holes. We're going to use our little, well, I'm using some skewers. I get these at Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to measure where I need to cut it. And I'm going to use my miter shears because you can use scissors, but you're going to have to really work at it to get the scissors to cut that, unless you have some better scissors than I do. You can cut and cut. You have to kind of twist it and cut and twist it and cut. It'll work. You just have to work at it. You also can use, if you have some needle nose pliers or some wire cutters or floral snips, you can use those. I just love my miter shears. So I'm going to cut 2 of those for these, because this is going to make it more stable. If you just hot glue that or wood glue that down, it's probably not going to hold very good. So we're going to stick those in there. I'm going to put a little pencil mark on each end of these dowel sticks. I'm sure there's a million ways to do this. This is just how I do it. I'm going to line that up. I'm going to wiggle it a little bit. That's where I need to drill my holes, because those holes on that side are not really that even. So I'm going to drill the holes, and then I can glue these pieces together with some Titebond Quick and Thick, and it works beautiful. It dries really fast, thus the name being quick. So I'm going to squeeze some out here, and that's not near enough, but that's what we're going to start with. I'm going to dip the little dowel in there. I'm calling them dowels, they're skewers. And then I'm going to poke it down in there and do another one. And yeah, get enough on there. Come on. There we go. Okay, then I'm going to take a little spatula. Oh, well, I decided that wasn't enough. Okay, here we go. Well, let's get some more. Okay, maybe that's enough. Oh, I did the other side. Or maybe I didn't do the other side. Okay, we're going to put the crossbars on now. Okay, I want to put some, I'm making sure it's going to fit, I guess. I don't know what I'm doing, guys. So I'm going to smear some glue on there with a spatula. There you go. And see how that fits good? Okay, all done. Now I'm going to do the bottom. Same song, second verse, same as the first. You got it. That's what we're doing. I'm going to put a little glue on there. Now I did have to go back and put a little, there we go, putting a little extra glue because it has to stand up. I normally would clamp this down, but I didn't have any clamps long enough for this project because it's a pretty big cross. Okay, now we're taking Sandy Blonde and Weathered Wood by none other but DIY. I get all my DIY products, my IOD products, Saltwash, all those good things that I love to play with. I get those from Sammy over at Unicorn Dust Designs. You can go to her website, www.unicorndustdesigns.com, and find all of those wonderful products. Now, I had that little tag you saw me paint. I get those in a bundle of a bunch of them off Amazon, and they're probably in my Amazon store. If not, you can just search them up. And we use them in my Sunday school class a lot, so I had that one left over. And now I'm just painting some of this Sandy Blonde on here, and you saw me squirt a little water, and I'm wiping it away with a wet wipe. I don't really want full coverage. And so I was thinking I was going to dry brush this on while it was still a little bit wet, and then I realized I really didn't like that look too much. So I ended up thinking I'm going to wipe some of it back. Well, that didn't work very good either. I ended up kind of drying it a little bit, or letting it dry a little bit, I think. Or maybe I just kept going. Yeah, I just kept messing with it. Sometimes I like to leave this footage in so you can see that, you know, I mess up too. So I used weathered wood, and I put some on, and then I used a baby wipe to smear it and spread it around. Okay, here's back to our tag. Here's my rice paper. I ordered this on Amazon, and I printed off the sheet music to the Old Rugged Cross. Now I'm going to use Mod Podge, my same decoupage. I'm not giving y'all any new techniques for decoupage because this is my favorite. So I'm going to line this up. I'm going to fold the top over, and I'm going to use that top line of the music to line it up even with the top line of the tag. Then I'm going to iron it on and file it off. No, I'm not going to file it off. This is different. I'm going to use an X-Acto knife, and I'm going to trim it really nice around the edges because I wasn't sure how this rice paper would file because it has a weird texture to it because it's got all those little fibers in it. But it's really pretty, and it goes through my printer really nice. Now I'm going to take this dark wax, and oops, I got a little much. Oh well, it's okay. We wait till you see how this turns out. It turns out beautiful. I think I'm going to use a little clear wax to try to fix it, and yeah, it didn't. It just made it worse. So I just, you know, we just move on. So I just really want it to be around the edges, and then I want it to kind of feather it in so that it just looks like an old piece of sheet music. So I'm kind of doing it around the edges, and now I'm not adding any more wax to my brush. I'm just kind of using what's left in there. And then now you can see I'm just kind of feathering it in. Okay, what am I doing here? I'm tying a knot in the end of my rope. Tie a knot in the end of your rope and hang on, folks. And then I'm going to put it around the cross because I want to hang it around the cross like so. And then I'm seeing how long it needs to be. And then I'm going to see that little dab of glue I have over there. Yeah, I left that so I could twist that. This is a little bit thicker jute twine. This is some jute twine. I don't know. People are giving me their leftover junk all the time, and it's treasures to me. They think it's junk and trash, and I think it's treasures. It was just a little piece of something I had that was in something somebody gave me. So I love the way that that hangs around there. Okay, now back to the cross. We're going to take some dark wax and seal our project. I'm going to seal it with the dark wax. Love the way this is turning out. Now, I do go back with a stamp. I'm about to do a stamp on here. And I never even realized until I was editing this that I probably should have done the stamp before I waxed it. But it actually turned out fine. Wait till you see it. It turns out actually really good. So I'm putting this dark wax all over it, sealing it up, front and back, the bottom. I think that dark wax and that sandy blonde look so good together. That's one of my favorite combinations. Okay, now this is one of the IOD stamps. I think it's called Barn Planks or something similar to that. And I'm just using the black ink, the IOD black ink. And I'm just going to lay it down on there and just press it gently. Oh my gosh, look how pretty that looks. So the guy that gave me this wood, I went back and showed him a picture of this. And he's like, how did you burn that in that wood? And I said, it's not burned. And he said, no, I mean, how'd you get that wood grain burned in there? I said, it's not, it's a stamp. He couldn't get over how good that looked on there. And so I was kind of proud of it. But it does look really good. Now I'm cleaning up my mess on my little silicone mat. I love this silicone mat. My friend Myra over at 59 Farm Fresh Design 59, she also has one of these mats. Hers is a beautiful blue. And she uses it to craft with. And I saw it on her channel and I've said, I have to have one. Where did you get that? She said, Amazon, they're cheap. You got to go get you one. Guess what? I did. I went and got me one. I couldn't craft without it. And it's so easy to clean. And now I'm just going to take my sanding block and just, etch it up. Distress it out a little bit. Just a little bit. I think I did take that clear wax and wax over this again. I just didn't get that on camera. I have these little bitty pieces of white, bits and pieces of floral. I'm going to just glue those down. I'm making a little finger bow out of some twine. And it's real simple. I do have a video to do tassels and finger bows. I'll link that in the description box below if you're looking for a slowed down version. That video's in real time. And I'm just going to glue those little pieces to the top of that little sign. And then I'm going to glue the little bow down. And then I decided that this cross needed something at the bottom. I couldn't decide if it needed greenery. I didn't really like that. So I just put some burlap. I just kind of wrapped some burlap around the bottom. Because, it's kind of rustic. And then I decided if you wanted, you could lay some little greeneries in the bottom. If I had a lily, because, Jesus was the lily of the valley, our bright and morning star. I would have put some lilies in there. I think that would be really pretty if you had a lily to lay down in there. I don't really like to make the cross look really pretty. I kind of struggle with that because the cross represents the pain that Jesus suffered for us. And so I really like to keep it kind of rugged and true to what it is. And for Easter, the cross Easter's really not about the cross. It's about the empty tomb and that Jesus is alive. So the old rugged cross does stand for his suffering, but his resurrection. Okay, now this one, I love to make a little garland or a little banner. So this could be either one. This is some more of that scrap wood from the rocking chair donator and some of this burlap scrapbook paper. So it's kind of like a little cardboard backing on this burlap. I'm just going to trace out the little pieces to fit. And I had this great idea that I would Mod Podge these on. And I would use the iron-on method. Well, guess what? You're going to see. It didn't work. This is so thick that I guess the heat didn't really go through. And I used a lot of pressure and left it on there for a long time. But it just didn't really work. So I got them all cut out. And I put, quite a bit amount of Mod Podge on there. I let them dry. And I tried to iron it on there. I can see it's all dry. Okay, come on, Kendra. What are you doing? I've got to make sure I'm getting it the right direction, I guess. I put some pressure on there. I pressed down. I held it for a little while, and yeah, it didn't work. So I got out the quick bond. The tight bond, the quick bond. It is a quick bond. The tight bond, quick and thick. And so this is not truly a decoupage. It's a decoupage fail. So then I'm going to use the letterpress stamps. And I lost my A on here, y'all. I looked for that and looked for that. I can't find it anywhere. But luckily, I didn't need it for this project. And I'm going to use weathered wood paint with a little dabber. And I'm going to just dab the paint on and use my tweezers to clean up my boo-boos. I kind of got the hang of it after a little while, and it was easier. And I just have this little clear acrylic block that someone gave me in a box of goodies. And just stamp this. I put he is on one, and then we're going to spell out the word risen on all the rest of them. So I'm showing you that I'm just using these. These are some other stamps by IOD. And so here we go. Look how pretty these are. So I'm going to take the dark wax, and I'm going to just wax around the edges to, make it look a little old and worn, because that's the look we're going for. If you don't like that look, by all means, don't do it. But I like that look. You know I do, because that's what's in all my videos. Okay, so we're going to make a little banner. So when I get all this taken care of in 20 time fast video, I wish I could really work that fast. Don't you wish we could just work that fast? Boy, we could get projects knocked out in no time. I don't know what I'd do with all those projects that got knocked out in no time, but hey, we could do it. Then I'm going to take my drill, and I'm going to drill some holes across the top of these so that we can make a banner. And I use that little block of wood so I can drill all the way through and not drill into my table. Then I'm going to take the scissors, and I'm just going to trim off the little frayed edges that it creates. And I'm going to use my handy dandy little tabletop vacuum to suck up all the little parts that got drilled out. And then here's what they look like. Now I've got some beads. I've got some very large beads, and I had just enough to put one in between. And then I have some regular large beads. Oop, one got away from me. Get back over here, little guy. And here I'm going to twist the end. That's that roll of the bigger jute twine I was telling you about that somebody gifted me. And so I'm going to do a large bead, an extra large bead, a large bead in between each one. Well, on the end and then in between each one. Well, you can see what I'm doing. And I did take the, I had like some tweezers or something, and I was kind of poking the holes, making it easier to get that twine through there. So yeah, I did this for all of them. Makes a very cute little, I kind of used it as like a little garland or a little banner. I'm going to put it on my piano. I didn't stage it on my piano when I took pictures because the lighting in there is terrible for pictures. I wish it were better on my piano, because I do decorate a lot on my piano seasonally. So I'm just going to tie a knot in each end, and I'm not going to put a tassel or anything on it. I'm just going to tie a knot on each end, and this one is done. So let me know what you think about this one, if you like this one. And let me know which one of these is your favorite today. Okay, the next DIY, we were to use a wood round and some burlap. So this was my choice of burlap. I got at Dollar Tree. I'm going to use some Waverly wax in the color Antique, and I'm going to just brush on some. I'm going to take a baby wipe, and I'm going to just smear it around with this baby wipe so that it looks stained. This is a great technique to do. It's not new. Everybody's done it, but I just love it. Now, I'm using this doubled over. And I'm just going to trim it down. You can just pretty much watch and see what I do. But I decided that these scissors do not really cut that burlap very good. And I'm pretty sure I've switched scissors. Okay, now you can see that it's doubled, that I have it doubled. Okay, so I traced around it. I don't know if I got that on camera. I traced around it, and then I used the scissors to cut that little piece. And then I'm going to hot glue all around the edge. But I cut it a little bit bigger, so I'm going to be very careful that I make sure that when I glue it down, I make an allowance for that, because I'm going to make a little pocket. I don't want it to be straight across. So I'm making sure, see, that I kind of leave it where it's got that little pocket. Might be a little bit gathered at the bottom. Then I'm just going to take it, flip it over, use my scissors to cut off the excess. And it's got a little hot glue there, so it's kind of sticking to my scissors, but hey, we get through it, right? I'm going to use my handy dandy little tabletop vacuum to suck up all those little crumbs. And next, we're going to get out the florals and the greenery. Now, for $4.49, I got this huge bag of succulents and greenery at thrift store. But I decided I'm going to use these little wildflowers, these little yellow wildflowers. I think they're just precious. I've been using this bunch for a long time. I think I either got it pretty sure I got it at Walmart a couple years ago. And I've just been using it in several DIYs, and it just has really lasted me a while for that big bunch. And then this little bouquet was in that bag that I just showed you that I got at the thrift store. So I'm just picking and poking until I like the way it looks. Now I've got this ribbon that I got from Sam's Club, and I'm just taking off some, and I'm sorry I'm out of frame here on some of this making the bow, but this, I'm just kind of making a simple bow. I'm just taking a couple of pieces of ribbon and making a big loop and pinching it in the middle, and then I'm going to take some longer pieces for the tail and cut them the same length, and then I'm going to find the middle. I'm going to pinch it together. I'm going to secure it in the middle with some twine, and then dovetail the ends. There, I'm finding the center. I'm just going to pinch it together, put that twine around it. And then I'm going to fluff the bow out, pull all the little loops of the bow out, and just twist them and fluff it until it looks like I want it to. And there, I like the way that looks, so I'm going to use some hot glue, glue that part that's the tails, and then I'm going to glue the bow right in the center of that. And then I do take my glue gun, I did get it on camera, and I'm just going to glue the tails down as well, so it's not so floppy. Then what I should have done in the beginning, but I waited until I had it all embellished, to put a little hanger on the back. Just a little sawtooth hanger. I'm going to hot glue it. I'm going to put a couple little pieces of canvas drop cloth to secure it. And this beautiful DIY is done. Let me know what you think about this one. Okay, one of the crafts that we did on the cruise was this little spindle and wreath. And so I had these little embellishments as an option to go on the wreath instead of that little plaque. But I had taken the little plaques and the little Hello Spring decals, but I'm just going to go ahead and use that little Hello Spring decal. I'm going to cheat a little bit. And we also had that little black and white checkered ribbon that you saw, and that I fixed those spindles that already had the dowels in the end. So then I'm going to take Farm Fresh by DIY, and I'm going to paint all three of these pieces with it. And then I had gotten this little embellishment and this little half bead, and I'm going to make a little flower like so with it. So I'm going to I painted the petals, the little flower, with beadboard, and I'm going to paint the center with liquid sunshine. Then I'm just going to glue that little center to the flower with a little bit of hot glue. Just like you see me doing here. Now, wood embellishments. Okay, this is my pitiful little box that has all my wood embellishments in it. And you can see it's an organized mess. Now, this is how they are before they're open, but everything's in Ziploc bags, and I mean, it's an organized mess. I used to have the little, once I opened those little wood, these with them in there, I would have them in Ziploc bags. But what I did instead now is my mom gave me this little, it was like in my dad's tackle box, and she gave it to me. And guess what? Those little embellishments work perfect in here. So let me know in the comments, like, how do you organize your little embellishments? Okay, so this is all painted. Now we're going to use some Titebond Quick and Thick, and that's all we're going to need because those little dowels are going to give us the extra support that we need. We're just going to press that down really nice and tight. We're going to wipe off that excess glue with a little Q-tip, and then I did go back in and touch up, paint that where it got a little, there I go, touching it up where the glue was a little bit different color. Then I'm going to take clear wax by DIY, and I'm going to clear wax this entire piece. Now this was amazing how differently everyone on the cruise made their spindle project look different. And so I decided when we had a few extras left over that I gave each one of the girls a kit and said, hey, would you guys like to join me on the 5th Sunday Craft with Friends, and we can all do one of these spindles? And they said sure, and I said thank you. Okay, so then I'm going to do some white wax, and just like you see me doing there, and then I'm going to wipe it back, and then I'm going to take my little, I'm trying to figure out where I want to put my little eye hook, because we're going to hang that little wreath. So I decide I'm going to put it right there. I'm just going to twist and twist and twist. This wood is really soft, so it didn't take much to twist it. Now, over to my little wreath. I'm going to use some of that ribbon, a little piece of burlap ribbon, and just make a very, very simple bow with just some ribbon. I didn't even make loops. It's not a loopy ribbon. It's just a little tuxedo type. And then I took a little butterfly and did it with liquid sunshine. And I forgot to tell you that I took some white wax and sealed up that little flower. Then I decided that little flower looked cute in that bow. Then I'm white waxing the pretty little butterfly. Going to attach it to the Hello Spring sign, and the wreath is finished. Now let's put it on our little holder, our little hanger, and look how adorable it looks. And last but not least, I'm going to do my tag with Hey Sailor and Vintage Linen. This is just a little bonus that I decided I was going to do. So I'm going to paint the round part with Hey Sailor. I'm going to put this in my bedroom because my bedroom is done in dark blue, navy blue, and I want this in there. You're going to see when I style it up. I'm going to take a sponge brush and I'm going to lightly just go over the top of this with some vintage linen. These are very fragile, and I did end up breaking a piece off, actually 2 pieces off, but you'll see that it doesn't matter because you can just glue it back on really easily. Now I'm going to put these beads onto this little skewer. Well, I ended up getting a different bead because that one wouldn't fit on there, but it's okay. I put 3 beads on there, and then I used the beadboard and I painted all 3 of them and I just dabbed it on there. Painted all 3 of them with beadboard. And then I have this little styrofoam block that came in something that I ordered as packing. And so you're going to see me stick that in there. I do this all the time. Stick it in there for them to dry. So in the meantime, I'm going to use some Big Top Sealer by DIY, and I'm going to seal the background, the round part. Then I'm going to use this little soft makeup brush, and I'm going to very gently seal my name. You can see that little piece over there that broke off, but no worries. I'm going to also use the Big Top to seal my beads. I'm going to attach my pieces together with the Tite Bond Quick and Thick. I poured some in that little silicone muffin cup over to the right, that little yellow one, and I'm going to apply a pretty generous coat with that paintbrush, just on the biggest edges. Okay, and when I was applying it, I knocked another little piece off, but it wouldn't lay flat on this piece for me. I don't know if when I used the heat gun, it warped it, the background piece, or what. So I ended up just using some clamps and clamping it down, and this worked perfectly because the Quick Bond dries quick. Now, I wasn't recording when I did the beads, but that's pretty easy to know. You just string the beads on there. And look how pretty this is in my bedroom with my books that have our name on them. It also looks really pretty styled on my bird cage.
If you managed to watch this video all the way to the end, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate it. And I hope that you enjoyed it. But most of all, I want you to remember to be still and know that He is God.